Whether you're picking and grinning or just grinning, grab a drink, pull up a seat. It's time for Roots Music Rambler. Turn it up. So, what are you doing June 13th?
Well, I just found out that I have plans that night.
Yeah.
These really cool people that I know, they surprised me with tickets to see Tyler Childers.
That's right.
At United Center in Chicago. I cannot believe it. And the location of the seats,
yeah,
I got nothing.
Yeah, so let me tell you how that happened.
Okay.
So for those of you listening out there, I had this idea. I'm going to sign up for Tyler Childers, the Ticketmaster lottery bullshit. And I'm going to do it in Chicago. And if I get the tickets, then Karen and I are going to invite Francesca and Tom to go with us. So it'll be kind of the Roots Music Rambler, night out at Tyler. And, so I get on this happened yesterday. And so I get on the queue and there's like 3,200 people ahead of me. And I'm like, well, United Center seats a lot of people. I might be good here.
Yeah.
However, I learned my lesson from doing this Ticketmaster lottery with Taylor Swift tickets for my daughter, which is a bad comparison, I know. But I used to, for those tickets, for the Taylor tickets, which I did not get, I would find, 2 or 4 seats, however many I was looking for, on the seating chart. And then I would click on it. And then by the time I got to the purchase, they were gone. So I learned my lesson there. On the Tyler tickets, I looked over on the column on the right-hand side and just saw the sections that I liked and just clicked. And I did it fast. Well, here's where Ticketmaster gets you. If you know what you're doing and you do it fast, you've got that sense of urgency, like I have to move quickly. So I just clicked on anything that didn't start 200 or 300 because I wanted to be in the lower bowl of the arena. So I saw one that was under 200, clicked, purchased the tickets, and they're in section 2 on the floor, the 5th row back on the second section. So I had to mortgage my house to pay for these things.
Oh my goodness.
I
feel so awful.
No, you don't feel. I'm the one who splurged. That's my fault. That's not your fault.
All right.
So the 4 of us in Chicago will be seeing Tyler Childers from probably 20 or 30 feet from the stage. So.
Which I cannot even believe. The first time I saw Tyler, I was 20, 30 feet away from him, but we were in a venue that was
you were at the back of the room, weren't you?
Yeah, the venue was this big, and I paid $25.
We paid a lot more than $25 for these tickets.
And you still won't tell me how much, huh?
Nah, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. It's you and Tom can buy dinner or whatever that night. I'm not really worried about that. I know I wanted to go. I know we were going to splurge a little bit, and I splurged more than I wanted to, but it's going to be worth it. So I'm excited.
I think so. And it it more than makes up for the fact that I was supposed to see Tyler and Sturgill Simpson together when they were supposed to tour together in 2020. And we all know what happens there, what happened then, right? So I had tickets at United Center for that show. And it got canceled. We got refunded. So I haven't seen Tyler live in about 4 years. So I'm excited.
Well, this will be both my and Karen's first time seeing Tyler live. So,
oh my goodness!
Yeah,
and
so
is
super excited.
Is SG Goodman opening for the Chicago show?
I don't know. I think I looked, and I don't think it's SG Goodman, but I'm not 100% sure either.
Okay.
I don't recall seeing the leading act. So
okay.
We'll see. Whoever it will be will probably be fantastic because none of his opening acts have been disappointing to me when I've seen him on a roster. By the way, I almost got in trouble with my daughter. In fact, I think I did get in trouble with my daughter, but she didn't tell me.
Uh-oh.
Because when he announced the legs of the tour about a month or so ago, he announced that Hayes Carll was going to be one of the opening acts.
Yeah.
It turned out that it was only 3 shows in Texas in April that Hayes was going to be on the bill. Well, I got excited because I love Hayes Carll. I've seen him 3 or 4 times.
Right.
And so I'm like, ooh, I'm going to go. Well, one of the dates was on my daughter's birthday.
Oh.
And of course, 15-year-old daughters don't ask questions and details before they get pissed off. They just get pissed off. So I found this out through my son, who said, hey, by the way, Katie's mad at you because you're going to see Tyler in Texas on her birthday. And I'm like, I'm not going to see Tyler in Texas. I just said he's playing. I want to go.
Yeah.
I didn't buy tickets.
Oh,
so I gotta iron that out with the old
you got to smooth that over there. Whew.
Women. Yeah.
No, don't even. That's a whole subset. Okay. Like
I know.
15-year-old girl, young lady, maybe.
Yeah.
Whole different ball game.
I'm also smart enough to know that the more I talk about 15-year-old women, the more trouble I'm going to get in. So, welcome to Roots Music Rambler. She's Frank.
He's Falls.
And we're rambling on through the stories behind the music we love. Today on the show, super excited. Frank, who do we got?
Yes, I am so thrilled. Our guest today is Nathan Graham, a Chicago artist. And if you've been listening to this podcast from the beginning, I have mentioned him a few times, and finally got him on the show as a guest, and I couldn't be happier. I'm so excited for him, for the success that he has seen recently. And he's just, like a Chicago guy, and he's just crazy talented. And the first time I ever saw him was opening for Drive By Truckers. And I think I like put up an Instagram story or whatever. And I'm like, he rocked my socks. Like, I hadn't been wowed like that by a live act in a really long time. So that was almost a year ago. And I've been telling everybody who will listen to me about him since then.
Well, and you told me about him, and I started listening, and I can see why your socks were knocked off, because he's really good. I haven't seen him live. I've just been watching some YouTube videos and heard a couple of singles. But man, nice mix of Chicago blues and kind of an Americana sound. He's got it all. He's really good.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
Super excited to have him on the show. And of course, we'll also share our weekly Pickin' the Grinnin'. We share our picks for whose music is making us grin the most this week. Might be new artists, might be old artists, but they will sure be good. Before we kick all that off, though, we have some controversy to discuss.
Uh-oh.
So
we don't shy away from controversy here at Roots
Music we don't do that. So Whiskey Riff, I'm reading from Whiskey Riff. Now, by the time this episode comes out, this will be a week or two old, but Jason Isbell has chimed in on Oliver Anthony's Richmond, north of Richmond. And basically, I want to read off what he said, because I think it's definitely worth us talking about. And of course, Whiskey Riff, they've got pop-up ads, and it takes you to the middle of the story before you actually get to it. But let's see here. Well, I'm not even to it yet. I'm still scrolling. He says... let's see. It's hard to get a message out about your political ideology or your belief about the world in 3 minutes and some change, but I do hate to see that song being weaponized. I see the right. Oh, that's Oliver Anthony's comment. See, Whiskey Riff, get to the damn lead, would you?
Yeah, right.
So he says, before I heard the lyrics, I was like, this guy can sing his ass off. I really do love that type of sound. I like bluegrass. I grew up listening to a lot of that, and anything with a soulful tinge I'm down for. I think it was the second verse that threw me for a loop. Plot twist. I don't have a ton of opinion on it, but I did think it was crazy, and it was just kind of compounded with the small town thing. Now, he went on to say that, buddy, there's a reason you don't just jump in the fucking pool. There's something there. But that's the song you should have written when you were 16. And then when you were 19, you should have rewritten it without the part about hating people on welfare. And then when you were 20, you throw the whole thing out and write another song. So Jason Isbell, who's arguably one of the greatest songwriters of our generation, and certainly has been on a roll for the last 10 years with
Yeah.
everything he's written just about, comes out and has a very harsh songwriting criticism for Oliver Anthony, who has come out of nowhere. I have my opinion on the matter, but I think this is the first time, Frank, you've heard what he actually said. So what's your immediate take?
Well, it's typical Jason Isbell. You know, if you or anyone follows him on X, he owns the joint. Okay, he can roast anyone with the best of them, and he does it in a way though that isn't completely offensive, and to someone who may not catch on so quickly, be like, what are they talking about, right? But he's very quick-witted and clever, and so reading that and hearing you read it, I could just hear Jason Isbell's voice saying that, right? And yeah, and just to use like that metaphor about don't jump in the fucking pool, that is definitely something that Jason Isbell would say. I'm reading it again because I'm trying to absorb it all. Yeah, I mean, hating people on welfare, that's a touchy topic, right? Maybe hate the system, not the people. So now that I'm looking at the lyrics too, again, of the song, it is kind of not very nice.
Well, so here's let me interject here, because
Okay.
I think the lyrics to the song can be taken a couple different ways.
Yeah.
I think it can be interpreted as hating the system. I don't think Oliver Anthony is the kind of person, based on the other things I've heard him say and whatnot, who hates people on welfare. He hates the fact that there are people who take advantage of a broken system. I honestly, when I, sort of read everything that Jason Isbell said, and I didn't listen to the interview, I just read the transcript of it. I was kind of a little pissed off for a second, because I was like, look, Jason Isbell, you are the king of the hill right now.
Sure.
But this guy, he's not hurting anybody. And yeah, he may have come out with, a handful of songs. He hasn't been writing as long as you has. He's not as polished as you are. But why the fuck point a finger at him and criticize him so harshly about, you should have written that when you were 16 and then rewritten it when you were 19 and then when you were 20 thrown it away. Basically, he shit on the song, which I didn't think was cool. I didn't think that was a classy move on his part. He doesn't give a shit about my opinion. He probably won't ever see or hear this.
Right.
But I lost there's a little bit of ding on Jason Isbell's belt on that one for me. Cause I'm like, wait a minute. And remember, I'm the guy who, I think on episode 1 of this podcast, said, I don't think there should be a rift between pop country and outlaw country. If the music moves the people, if it makes you tap your foot, if it takes you away from your troubles, who the fuck is anybody to say that it's good or bad?
Right.
And so, I don't know, I just kind of chapped my ass a little bit. And so if I were in the room when Jason Isbell said that, I probably would have said, wait a minute. It's okay to constructively criticize somebody's song, but it sounded to me like Isbell was crossing the line there about, I'm gonna go fish for a headline here. I'm not necessarily gonna, give my honest opinion. I'm just gonna say something offensive and incendiary against this new kid because I think that one line sucks. I think if you're in that position and you're the king of the hill and this is a new guy to the scene and he's making a name for himself, you're probably better off just keep your mouth shut. If you can't say something nice, don't say anything. But again, he's not going to listen to me.
Yeah. And, Jason Isbell doesn't shy away from anything, controversial. And he's very open about his politics and his beliefs. So anyone who has followed him or even listened to his last 3 albums, 2 albums, would know where he stands on these issues. So I will disagree with what you said about Jason Isbell, trying to grab a headline. I personally don't believe that was his intention. He is a smartass. That's who he is. And so what he said, it's blunt. It's not constructive, like you said, but that's who he is.
Yep. Okay. Well, I mean, and again, it's just my opinion. Nobody gives a shit.
Nobody. No.
Certainly he doesn't. And I doubt Oliver Anthony would either. But I don't know. I just thought it was a little too far, a little too harsh.
All right.
Constructive criticism is fine. You say, hey, I wouldn't pick on, people on welfare as much. There's a way to wordsmith that a bit so that it's not so, abrupt and critical. But that's just my opinion. So,
and we can Monday morning quarterback this all day long, right? We weren't there. We don't know if he had any time to, really come up with a response or anything. So,
well, and I'm not a songwriter, and right. I don't disagree with Jason's point. Yeah. There's some amateur mistakes maybe that are made in someone's early songwriting. And one would think that Oliver Anthony's songwriting is pretty early in his career right now. Right. So yeah, you're going to make some amateur mistakes. You're going to make some things that 2 or 3 years from now, you're going to look back and say, oh man, I should have polished that a little bit more. Right. Yeah. He'll learn those lessons. Oliver will.
Yeah.
And I don't disagree with what Jason said. I just thought he was kind of mean spirited about it.
Yeah.
And, it's one thing to be a smart ass. It's another thing to be a jackass.
That could be a bumper sticker too. I think we have a whole side business possibility.
We're going to come out with merch soon, and that will be there. So we're sipping on a bourbon, and I'm out. We'll take a quick break for a refill. Take a moment, if you will, and listen to more about the awesome sponsors that help make the show happen. Obviously, drop us an email, by the way, at what is our email? I forget our email.
Ramblers?
It's Ramblers. No. I think it's Ramblers at rootsmusicrambler.com. If you disagree with me, want to call me a son of a bitch or whatever, that's fine.
Or you want a high five, Jason.
Yeah. If you want to do that too, maybe if you agree, I'd love to hear that too. Anyway, Muskox, got our beautiful flannels. Make sure you check out Muskox. They're at gomuskox.com/Rambler. If you use the code Rambler, you get a discount. It's flannels that are soft as a baby's behind, but built like a tank, just like me. Right. And so great flannels. I've been wearing mine. They're comfortable as hell. Karen loves them. So dudes, get you some Muskox flannels. gomuskox.com/Rambler. Use the code Rambler. $10 of every $100 purchase goes to wildlife conservation up in the Alaskas. To save the actual muskox. That's what they look like.
Muskox.
They kind of look a little bit like me, maybe.
Oh, a little bit.
GoMuskox.com/Rambler. Use the code Rambler. We're going to step out, take a break. When we come back, Nathan Graham will join us. This is Roots Music Rambler.
Sick of waiting on your call. You promised that you'd be there.
If you listen to the first couple lines of any of this guy's music, you don't go, you're doing something wrong.
Word.
That's Nathan Graham. Somebody Else, which is a new single out, and he's got a new album coming out, and he joins us now on Roots Music Rambler. Nathan, thank you so much for taking the time and coming on the show, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So I understand you played a gig tonight, so you just kind of are running in from playing somewhere, aren't you?
Yeah, it's kind of my life now. It's like I'm always like kind of running from one thing to the next.
Well, I mean, that's what isn't that what you asked for when you got into this business?
Yeah, I didn't realize it was going to happen like so quickly. Yeah, so
that's good though. And you just came back from a tour. How'd that go?
I did. It was good. We did an East Coast tour. That was a lot of fun. I love playing. I love playing like New York and we played Philadelphia and everything. So it's like everybody was telling me, oh my God, you're going to the East Coast in the fall. It's going to be pretty. So it was a lot of really great drives and
I bet.
it was good.
Nice. Yeah. Nice.
So I have to start where I first saw you. I didn't remember. I didn't make the connection that it was Nathan Graham and this guy that I saw on
Okay.
The Voice back in 2017. What was that experience like?
Um, Humbling in so many words. Like when you fail in front of 2 million people,
Mm.
it is a little. It's like, okay, maybe I need to, step back for a minute. But it was cool. I met a lot of really good people there, and a lot of people I still talk to this day. Like we kind of keep up with each other through Instagram or Facebook or whatever.
Nice.
Um, yeah, so it makes you create a bond with people very quickly because you're sequestered for 30 days.
Oh
Oh,
wow.
So,
wow.
so basically you really only talk to the people that are in the competition with you. Um, and they're, so it's like we end up like, we'll have this thing where it's just like, oh, well, Tuesday night, we going over to this person's room and we're gonna, watch movies, and then like Wednesday night we're gonna do this. So it's like you start to kind of make a camaraderie with people very quickly. So yeah.
So I'm
Nice.
curious. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily call it a failure, but you said you
Right.
failed in front of 2 million people. What do you take away from an experience like that, or what did you take away from that experience that's made you better and prepared you more for what you're doing now?
Um, One thing that it is that uh, that I just kind of figured out on my own was, um, just because you are not one person, or in this case, four people's favorite, you can be a lot of other people's favorites,
Oh yeah.
which is really nice. The fact that you can, you know, it's like The Voice looks for a very specific type of singer, very specific type of person. And I'm not in that wheelhouse, and that's fine. I'm not. I'm never gonna fault myself for that. Um, but it's like that moment of, oh man, I guess people don't really like me, and it's just like, no, people do. It's just you have to find your audience.
Yeah.
Find your audience, find your niche. Um, it's like a lot of musicians and singers that I love, probably would never make it on there, make it on The
Yeah.
Voice or American Idol or any of those shows,
Yeah.
So I love Neil Young and Bob Dylan, you know.
They ain't winning any
I
of those
Right,
competitions.
I love them
Heavens
so
no.
much, but yeah, exactly right. So, it just kind of cemented that into me that you can still be successful and you can still, do really well and not have that be the mainstream thing. So
Yeah.
For sure. We all have our own measure of success, right?
yeah.
And I mean, I'll say that I think you've surpassed probably what some of the other people that have been on the show have done. I said in the intro that I first saw you open for Drive By Truckers last year. And it's like since then, things have just really taken off for you. What was it like before then? Like, what was Nathan Graham's life before opening for Drive By Truckers last November?
So it's been like kind of a steady trajectory. It's like I think even before that I had opened up for Ben Harper.
Mm.
Okay.
So I think that was the way that went. Yeah, yeah, I opened up for Ben Harper. I went over to Europe with him, and
Oh, nice.
I did 3 dates in Europe with him, and that was
Nice.
a lot of fun. And so I mean, like it's always been kind of like a slow climb. There's people who, it happens very virally. It's like they put out a song and then boom, they're everywhere all at once.
Yeah.
And then for me, it's always kind of been the road dog sort of thing. It's like I've played a lot of shows. I've played a lot of, recording sessions. I've done a lot of songwriting. So it's like, it's a steady walk up a hill, but it's really good. And then once I did open up for the Drive By Truckers, it was like all of a sudden I had this whole new fan base,
Hmm.
of
Definitely.
people that I, you know, I never would have put myself in the category of like Drive By Truckers in a sense. Um, but it's like when you do kind of step out of that lane, step out of your comfort zone, really, that's when it's like, okay, now people can see what this is. Now it's this whole other thing. Um, and it's been really good because a lot of my new fans have been Drive-By Truckers fans, or I got to open for Lily Hyatt, and
Yep.
so now they, so I'm not straight up like country rock sort of music, but it's a variation on a theme enough that people who like that will like what I do.
Yeah.
So it's yeah,
It seems that those fan bases, and then I have to mention that you opened for Lucinda Williams.
hmm
I mean, that was, I was so excited for you, and I was so mad that I couldn't go to the show. But it seems like the fan bases of the artists we just mentioned are going to have open minds, and welcome
yeah,
this new kind of, or not new, but different sound, than the band or the artist that they've gone to see, you know.
yeah. I think that's really, especially with this type of music, with Americana and blues and rock and type of music, is that there it lends itself to you finding a lot of different music, and
Mhm.
it lends itself to that open-mindedness, so it's like I think about like my mom and my parents, and their music tastes are really eclectic, and they come from that. I remember my mom telling me she used to listen to WVON, which was Voice of the Negro, right? And she would listen to that, and she would say like you would hear gospel music, you would hear rock music, you would hear blues and R&B, you would hear singer-songwriter stuff. She was like they played everything, and I think that generation are used to hearing everything on the radio. Now we're kind of in this thing where it's like everybody has like a programming, and it's like, okay, let's play the same 20 songs over and over and over again. So you can't get it out of your head. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I
Yeah.
think that, especially the people who grew up listening to Lucinda Williams, they probably remember, okay, Lucinda Williams played, and then it was like John Denver, and then it was, it was like there was so much stuff happening at the same time that they could hear all that.
Yeah. And the thing too about the radio stations, like listening, like, I mean, how I grew up, right? Um and nowadays with streaming, there's the algorithms. So, if you listen to two songs of the same genre or by the same artist, then that's all that's going to be played for you, you
Right.
know.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you mentioned your mother's, listening to music. Tell us a little bit more about your parents, because it seemed you kind of indicated there they had different tastes. And tell me what music was like in the home when you were growing up.
It was like musical whiplash, man.
I
I'm
like that.
serious. Like, it really was. Even now it's like, my mom is a huge fan of like, James Brown and BB King, and my mom likes everything. She can find something that she loves in every different genre of music. And my dad is really more about like singer-songwriter. He loves a really good story. He loves a really
Mhm.
good, so he loves Tracy Chapman. He loves John Denver. He loves Jim Croce. He loves, but yeah, so he really loves singer-songwriters, and he really likes when he can visualize what's happening.
Yeah.
My mom is like more like she likes that too, but she also likes she likes the sound of Philadelphia. She loves, Stax and Motown and like all that stuff, like the bigger band, like R&B sort of stuff. And then of course, like my dad loves Earth, Wind and Fire and all those people. So he's really into that too. So and then on my mom's side, um, my uncle, he gave me my first record, right?
Mm.
And it was Jimi Hendrix South Saturn Delta. So he's like the big like rock and roll fan in the family. He loves Jimi Hendrix and Rolling Stones and Robin Trower and all those people. So he showed me a lot of that stuff when I was growing up. And so it was, my dad loves Bob Seger. The first time I ever heard "Turn the Page" was in the car with my dad. He was
Yep.
like, "This is going to be you soon." So it was,
Oh,
um, just feeling, just having those moments. And he also loves Christmas music. So he's like, this is his time right now.
Okay.
Oh,
We were
he's
just
gearing up.
yeah. He will turn on, because there's whatever that radio station is that plays
Oh,
the,
Light FM.
Light FM. He will turn that on right after Thanksgiving, and he will listen to
Oh,
Christmas music from the day before Thanksgiving all the way up to like New Year's. He
so
loves
we
Christmas music.
we have to explain this for Jason because he's not from here, right? He's not from
Mhm.
Chicago. He's down in Louisville, and so there's a radio station here in Chicago, 93.9 Light FM, and
Right.
they start playing Christmas music the day after
Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
They
I
actually
personally
started.
find it nauseating, but go ahead, Nathan.
No, I that's the thing is like I like the Christmas music. I think that what they do is they find one song a lot of times and they play that song out so many times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But I think last year they started playing it right after Halloween.
Wow.
It
no.
was pretty quick, yeah. And
Oh
now they have
no.
like
Well,
they have like competition now, so like you can call in and like pick the day that they're gonna start, and you'll win tickets or something like that. So
well,
Oh
I
yeah,
hate to
Lord.
bust y'all's Chicago bubble, but every city's got one of those stations. So
yeah,
Oh
that's
yeah,
not
no.
that's not
I
unusual.
am not bragging about it or I'm not trying to own it. I'm just saying, we're talking about Light FM and
Gotcha. I
just
yeah,
a
gotcha.
little explanation for you.
I
yeah,
gotcha. So obviously you, when someone listens to your music, Nathan, I think blues obviously pops, almost
right.
right away. Um, and I can't help but assume that just the fact that you grew up in Chicago has a lot to do with that. How would you say the city of Chicago and the scene there has impacted your playing, but then also your songwriting?
Yeah, I mean, I that's the thing is like I started playing. The first thing that like got me into guitar was bluesy,
Hmm.
bluesy music and that really like rough sound of that type of guitar, right? Um, and being in Chicago and being in so close to all that stuff, I could access Buddy Guys, I could access Blues on Halsted, I could access Kingston Mines very easily, and it was like that showed me how to be a performer, and it showed me like how to it really did have this huge impact on my playing. It wasn't just like, I feel I that's the thing is like when I think about blues players, that didn't grow up in Chicago, they get their blues through like Stevie Ray Vaughan, or they get their
Hmm.
blues through like Eric Clapton, maybe B.B. King, but I got my blues through like people who had been doing it on the ground level for a
Yeah.
really long time. So it's a different sort of sound.
Yeah.
It's not a pop blues sound. It's a
Yeah.
blues. It's like straight up. There's acoustic blues that happens. There's like Joanna Connor. Like I love watching her play. Carl Weathersby, he's another one.
Yeah.
So it was like it definitely helped with me not becoming like I don't want this to sound mean, but it's like a lot of times I feel like sometimes people are like Stevie Ray clones,
Mm.
and I feel like I kind of I found that, but I also like got a little bit further past it because of the fact that I was watching the people who were doing it in
Yeah.
Chicago and like that Chicago blues sound.
Yeah. That's good
It's
stuff.
slow. It's slow and it's methodical. It's not fast all the time. It's like, you can hear somebody just destroy your life with one note.
Yeah.
That's what Chicago blues is.
Well,
So
and I think that's why when I said, when we first came in, if you don't listen to a few bars of your music and go, you're doing something wrong, that's
yeah.
why. It's that Chicago blues sort of foundation there that makes that happen.
Thank
We
you.
are talking to Nathan Graham. He's got a new album coming out. We're going to talk more about that and a bunch of other things when we come back. But I'm going to play us out to commercial with a little bit more of that same song, somebody else, because it makes you go, So all in unison. Here we go.
Will I be your fool?
Yeah.
And I can't help myself.
That's awesome.
Rather take the chance of you breaking my heart.
Yeah.
This is a jam. I do love this song.
I lost my mind, searching for what I can't find. It's so far away.
I love that.
From my home.
Nathan, do you ever get sick of seeing people, bopping their heads like that and singing along when you're playing live?
Not at all. No.
I would think that's why you do it, isn't it?
Right.
No. I have been waiting a long time for people to know the songs. It's what's really funny is that like when I'll flub a lyric or something like that on stage,
Oh.
and then I notice people notice. I'm like,
catch
oh,
it.
they know the songs.
Yeah.
Like,
You're like, oh shit, I can't pull them.
yeah, I used to be able to just like, oh, I can make up a lyric right there and it's fine. But now people are like, oh, I know this song. So I was like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, you'll know you've made it when some drunk guy in the back yells, "Sing it right."
That's typically my mother. She'll look at me like she's usually not drunk, but if she figures
Okay.
out that I'm singing the song wrong, she'll be like, "What? You wrote the song? Like, why don't you know the lyrics?" I'm like,
Oh my goodness, that's such a mom thing.
That's definitely a mom right there talking.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's fun.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh goodness. Back with Nathan Graham here on Roots Music Rambler. We're obviously having a good time. And Nathan, we were talking about your musical background and whatnot before the break. I know before you kind of focused on your own sort of solo experience, I think you were a guitar for hire session guy for a while, I believe, and did that for about 10 years. I wonder at what point in your life as a musician did you decide to or start focusing on being a solo artist, or was that the plan all along and it was just, I got to do these other things to get there?
It wasn't the plan all along. So when I first started out, I did do a lot of side musician stuff. I did have bands of my own before that too, and I had singers like for the songs that I was trying to write. And honestly, it got to the point where I was just like, I don't do a lot of like runs and things like that when I sing. I'm not a gospel singer. It's like and all the singers that I've always liked to listen to are very like stand and deliver type people, right?
Yeah.
And they have their own sort of unique to them voice. And I would write songs and then people would sing them and they would do like these these crazy things or whatever. And I was just like, that's not how I want it to sound. So I started to say like, okay, can I do this? Can I sing? Can I get in front of the microphone? And that was where I kind of found my confidence a little bit because I was like, well, it's like it's like if I'm writing the songs, I should be able to sing them, right? And so that was not the plan at all. I kind of just wanted to be a guitar player. It's like I love like Derek Trucks and Kenny Wayne Shepherd. It's like they all had singers.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of my heroes were just straight up guitar players, like Mike Campbell. Like I love Mike Campbell from
Oh yeah.
Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. I always thought he had like an amazing tone and could figure out exactly what sounded right for that song very quickly.
Yeah.
He's got like 24 guitars that he travels with, so he can just like pull up the guitar for only the losers, but yeah, like I always admired guitar players for a long time, so that was my goal to do that. And then my teacher Fernando Jones and my mom and another teacher of mine, Nick Tremulous, they were just like, you got to sing, you got to do it. I was like, okay, fine, I'll do it.
If you insist. Well,
Yeah.
A really great guitar player with a really great voice is kind of a rare commodity. It doesn't happen very often. And so obviously they saw something in your voice that was like, you've got a sound, because there's a lot of people out there who can sing, but there's not a lot of people out there who have a sound, and you've got a distinctive sound to go along with great playing and obviously great songwriting. So congratulations to them for seeing that in you, for sure.
And Nick Tremulous, he's kind of like a legend around here.
Yeah. Nick Tremulous is man, when I first met him at Columbia College because he was teaching there.
Oh, okay.
And I remember I did, so it was like maybe the first or second month that I was at, it was the second month I was at Columbia. And I remember doing, we were like, this was on an ensemble thing, right? And I was playing some solo on a song, and he would like I saw him in the crowd, and I was just like, that's Nick Tremulous, you know. So I was like, I like, cause you know, he's kind of hard to miss. Um, and then he walked up and he says, "Who are you?" And I was just like,
Nice.
"I know who you are." So we started talking and hanging out, and you know, he's a big deal for me, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Awesome.
That's got to be cool for sure.
yeah, he's a really great dude.
So I read something that was, probably in one of your, interviews, or maybe it was some PR material or something I was looking at, that I thought was really interesting. It said something along the lines of that you have set out to break stereotypes in the singer songwriter genre, at least from an
Yeah,
Americana perspective. And that resonates with me, certainly. But I wonder if you could dive a little bit deeper in what that means to you. What type of stereotypes are you trying to break, and what genre? Because I want to make sure that people understand what the intent there is.
yeah. So I mean, a lot of times it was like it's sort of like the what happened with the separation of rock and roll and R&B, right? Rhythm and
Mm-hmm.
blues, right? So it was like, you know, you had like you had Elvis, who was rock and roll, and then you had Little Richard, who was R&B.
Mm-hmm.
They essentially did the same thing, you know. And I think that happens with songwriter a lot because you know a lot of times you'll see R&B singer Leon Bridges, and then you'll see singer songwriter John Mayer. So it's like there is they essentially do the same things, you
Mm.
know. And it just kind of bothered me a bit. It was like why don't we get the moniker of singer songwriter? You know, why can't people of color get the moniker of singer songwriter? You know, just because we don't have, you know, an acoustic guitar and, and bedhead, you know, it's like why can't we be, why can't we be singer songwriters? So, you know, and I think about that with so many, you know, different artists. Like, you know, I love D'Angelo. He for me he writes so many songs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's a singer songwriter for me. But a lot of times you'll see them, and I like that it's changing now. So it's like maybe I'll change that too. But you know, it's like it's getting to the point where it's starting. Hopefully, the trajectory keeps going the way that it does, where it's like, you know, now people of color are being centered as singer songwriters, you know,
Right.
and not just like R&B singer or
Yeah.
you know, soul singer or whatever.
Mm.
You know, it's like you know, it does the same thing.
Yeah. It's interesting. That's the first time I've ever really had anyone point out that, I guess, byproduct of sort of institutional racism,
Yeah,
which is,
yeah,
I think that's where that falls. It's like, oh, we put labels on things because we've always put labels on things, but the real reason is because of
yeah.
racism. It was there, and we labeled things one way versus another. So it's the first time I've ever heard anybody point that out, and so
Yeah.
I'm thank you for doing that, because it certainly makes us a lot smarter.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny because I remember there was one day where it was one particular New Music Friday where Chris Stapleton and Kendrick Lamar came out with songs at the same time. And I remember, and I put on my Instagram, I said, two of my favorite songwriters put out albums or put out songs, Chris Stapleton and Kendrick Lamar. And I remember somebody writing back to me saying, like, well, Lamar is a rapper. And I was like, still a songwriter.
Yeah.
You know, so because if you listen to, like, for me, like, I think he is one of the greatest storytellers of our time. Because if you listen to any of his albums, Kendrick Lamar's albums, it's like you're there. You know, he puts you directly in his story, and it's
Yep.
just like you're a little afraid if you're listening to that in the dark by yourself. It's a little scary. So it's like, you know, I think that's really the hallmark of a great songwriter is if they can put you in their story, and you
Oh yeah.
can you can pull from your own self experience of like, oh, I remember that time when this similar thing happened to me, so it's definitely, that's something that you have to think about now.
So I'm making the mental note, listen to Kendrick Lamar, but not in the dark by myself. Okay, got
Yeah,
it.
don't listen to it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, if you don't listen to Money Trees in the dark by yourself. That is scary.
Yeah.
Okay,
Now,
noted.
as kind of a follow on to your point, I've had people ask me before why I like certain artists like John Prine or Dwight Yoakam or any number of artists, and inevitably the answer is always because their music sounds like my life.
Yeah,
And I think that's kind
exactly.
of getting to the core of you. If you identify with the story that's being told in some way, doesn't have to be an exact experience, but if you identify with something about it, that song or that artist becomes one of your favorites. You hold on to them.
Yeah, it does. It really, really does. Like I've always wanted my lyrics to be kind of conversational, and like, it's like that's the thing, is like I write the songs that it doesn't necessarily have to be an artist who's having those thoughts. It could be somebody who's in finance. It could be somebody who's, trying to figure out if they're going to keep going to medical school. It could be anything. And, having those feelings of like, I should quit this, it's like, or should I keep going? That's, yeah.
Good stuff. We're talking to Nathan Graham. When we come back after the break here on Roots Music Rambler, we're going to talk about the new album. And speaking of which, I think this is coming out on the new album. I don't know for sure. So he'll correct us during the break, and I'll come back and apologize if it's not. But I believe this one is. We're going to go to break here with a little tune called Right One.
Go ahead, Jason. Do it.
Wait.
Spend my life as a selfish man, fooling around with people.
Good stuff.
Thank you.
Spend all of my time sleep at the wheel. Never thought I'd get too far. I crawled down this road last known. I just want my story told. Leave a trail of broken heart.
Man, that's good. That is that's Nathan Graham. That's from not his new album. That's actually from Jam in the Van session, which you can find on the YouTubes and Spotify's and all those other places. Nathan, you've got this new album coming out. We've heard a couple of cuts off of it tonight. You've got 3 singles prior to the album coming out, which I think comes out in the next week or two. Tell us about the new album. How did the concept come about? How did the songs come about? And tell us what people can expect.
So actually the last song you played, I'll Get It Right, is the last song on the album.
Oh, good. Okay.
And it was funny because that was the first song that I wrote. And I did, before I even knew it was going to be an album. I had no idea it was going to be a thing. It was funny. I was actually talking to my partner, Christina, over dinner yesterday, and I said that I wrote down in the diary that this was not supposed to work. And so I wrote that song on a tour, a particularly bad tour. And I was like in the mindset of just like, okay, this is going to be it for me. Like, I think I'm done.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so the whole album was basically the whole idea of Saint of Second Chances, was just me having that, because I had this band that I thought was gonna work, right? And I like I put a lot into it, and the people that were working with us put a lot into it, and it just kind of fell flat. And so I was just, I kept saying like, if this thing doesn't work, I'm going to be done. Right.
Mm.
So I remember because the album had another name before it was The Saint of Second Chances, and I did not like that name. It was just like a working title. And one day I was like walking up the street, and it's like it just hit me, and I was just like, "That's it. That's the name of the album." And I wrote all of the songs to kind of talk about this tumultuous time that led up to the breaking up of this band, of this last band that I had. So it was, if you talk about pride, it was like that feeling of, I got it, I don't need any help. And then fake friends is like keeping people around that validate your bad ideas.
Mm.
Somebody else is about the music industry, and it was personified by like, what if this was a person that kept kind of like calling you and being like, hey, I'm going to come to your show, or I'm going to do this thing and we're going to have fun. And then like, the last minute they say, don't hate me, but they do that thing. So, you can tell I have some feelings about that, but it was, so it was basically just, I wrote this song of I'll Get It Right to start the album. And it was, at some point, I just wrote this down today. Actually, it was just like, I'll get it right could be a silent prayer, or it
Mm.
could be like an indignant scream of like, I'll get this right.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't matter how long it takes me, I'm going to do it. Or it's like that question of like, I'm going to get this right, right? Like at some point, this is going to fall together. So you can interpret it in any way that you want to, but it is that moment of trying at something that you've been wanting for a really long time. And now it's like, and now I'm seeing it where it's working. It's like it's still like there's still a lot that needs to happen, but it is working. So
Sure.
yeah.
Well, I'm glad that the writing of this album pulled you out of the thought of giving it up for sure.
Yeah.
And what you just said, it's like, okay, this album is going to be special because it sounds to me like some of the best albums that have ever been made have all been written out of some sort of trauma, some sort of turmoil. And if you were in it at that moment, and that's where these songs came from, there's got to be a lot of catharsis in it for you, but probably a lot of identification in it for other people.
Yeah. It's funny because when we did, so I'll Get It Right has a lyric in there that says, um, too much pride to cry, right? So it was like that is very much, and I remember we did a video for it for this company, and the guy was like, I really want that to be the focus, like the too much pride to cry lyric, because there's so many people who don't feel like they can,
Yeah.
and don't, and they just bottle it up, and that's what I was doing a lot of times. Is I was bottling it up, and I remember I was on tour with this other band, not the band that broke up, but I was on tour with this other band, and I would talk to I talk to my dad almost every day, and he, um, we were having a conversation, and he would say, "How's it going?" I'm like, "Oh, that's okay." So, I'm doing all right. And he knew that there was something else wrong, and then finally he got it out of me.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, that's what I wanted to hear. He's like, I knew there was something wrong. I knew there was something happening. I just wanted you to admit it. So it's like that lyric of too much pride to cry. It was like that was me for a very long time. It's like I wasn't gonna, I was gonna, it is what it is until it killed me, sort of
Yeah.
thing. So um, it was catharsis to write this whole album and finally like get it out and have people resonate with it the way that they did, the way that they do now. So
And I mean the title of the album alone, I adore it. The Saint of Second Chances.
yeah,
When you announced it, I think it was I don't remember the first time I heard you talk about it, but I was like, oh my God, that is perfect. I love it. Like I felt it. Like I get where that's coming from. So yeah, I'm really really looking forward to it.
thank you.
Yeah. It's going to be exciting to hear it because I mean, from what I've heard, the three, or well, I guess 4 songs that I've heard maybe a couple more, but the three that are the singles that are out now are fantastic. They're the ones that make me go, mm. So I have a feeling there's going to be a lot more when I'm listening to that album. So, and I definitely want to make sure that I get to see you live. So tell us about the tour schedule, support for this thing, and please, dear God in heaven, come to Louisville.
That's on our list. Louisville is on our list. So we're doing a album release party on October 19th at Fitzgerald's, and then we have another. We're bookending. We're doing like a album release show, East and West, right? So we have the West, which is Fitzgerald's, and then we have the East, which is Sleeping Village on November 18th. I'm really excited for those shows. So October 19th, it's going to be myself and Sarah Jean Stevens, who's opening. And then November 18th is going to be myself, the Nets, and Megan the Wheelers opening for that show. And so, I'm really excited about that. And then we have we're confirming some dates for 2024. A lot of them are southern states. Louisville is hopefully included. Louisville, Nashville, Indiana. So we're gonna once we firm those up, I'll let everybody know and put it up on the website and everything.
Excellent. Well, I will definitely be keeping my eye on it because I'm definitely coming to see you live, even if I have to drive somewhere else to see it. I want to see that live because I have a feeling I'm going to be as blown away by you live as Francesca was. So that's good stuff, man. So you mentioned the website. Where can people find you on their interwebs?
Sure. It's Nathan Graham Music on everything. Website, Instagram. I made it real simple. I was trying because I don't like remember a whole bunch of stuff. Right. And I can't remember a whole bunch of stuff. Nathan Graham Music across the board.
Very good. Well, Nathan, man, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule. I know you were playing a show earlier tonight and you're busy as hell with this album launch. And we really appreciate you taking some time out to talk to us and share a little bit of this music with us.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to show up late. I apologize.
Oh my goodness. Of course. And Nathan, my kid's texting me from the other room saying, you better represent Jones. So, Jason,
Jones College Prep,
yeah, Jones College Prep. That's the high school that Lucia goes to, my daughter. Okay, and Nathan graduated from there as well. It's a prestigious school. It's like ranked as one of the top public schools in the country. And so
they need to test more if I've graduated from there. No, I'm just kidding.
So my kid, she loves the fact that I know someone who's famous that went to Jones, and it's a good she gets really excited about it. So she texted me, you better represent Jones. Okay. So I had to say something. Okay.
You can tell Lucia that we got Jones on the air and we got her on another show. So.
I know. My kid has made appearances, Nathan. Yeah.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah.
It's always good. All right. I'm going to play us out. I'm going to go back to the first one we played because I like it so much. Nathan, man, thanks for hanging with us, bro.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sick of waiting on your call. You promised that you'd be there.
Welcome back to Roots Music Rambler. It's time for Picking the Grinning. That's where Frank and I tell you who we've been listening to lately who's making us grin by their picking or whatever. I have to admit, this is not a Roots music or an Americana thing, but I want to encourage all of you, especially those of you who are children of the 80s and 90s. A few months ago, it might even be a couple years ago now, because I just kind of found this on YouTube. But there are a couple of studio session tracks that were recorded by one of my favorite bands of all time. I'll admit it publicly here, And I have been watching a couple of the tracks over and over again just because they sound so perfect all these many years later. And that's Tears for Fears. They recorded, there's Everybody Rules the World is in there, and a Mad, Mad, Mad World, I think, and then a couple of others, but they recorded it relatively recently within the last couple of years. And it's just them in the studio. And they've, come back and they've got a new album out and all this kind of stuff. But I've been, for some reason, watching it over and over again, and they just sound pristine. They sound so good with these studio performances. So I've been looking at those. Those are on the YouTubes.
Cool.
So we'll share a link to one of those videos in the show notes of this episode so that you can find them. But I've been enjoying some good old fashioned Tears for Fears. There you go.
Nice. Little throwback.
Little throwback. What about you?
To when we was coming up.
Yep.
I've been listening to a really wide array of music, a little mix. I was turned on to this one artist that goes by the name of Black Belt Eagle Scout. And it's funny because I found out about this artist from a friend of a friend who said that I resemble this artist, right? She thought that I looked like her.
Okay.
So I'm like, oh, well, I got to look her up, right? So I did. And the more I started learning about her, I'm like, okay, so she kind of like really embodies the spirit of Roots Music Rambler. And I'm like, we got to get her on the show, this and that. So I've been listening to her music, and she's a Native American woman from the Pacific Northwest. And her music, the lyrics that she writes, a lot of them have to do with her roots. And I think there's even a song like My Blood Runs Through This Land,
Okay.
So like it's really like embedded. And it's not folky though. Like the sound isn't very folky. So it's kind of interesting, right? You've got like the folky lyrics and but the sound is just completely different, and I'm really digging it.
Well, I mean, from a distance, yeah, I guess there is a little resemblance there. I pulled her up on the phone here. Well, you guys sort of kind of look alike. I wouldn't say, you're twins, but
Right.
yeah, I mean, you got the same.
Like the olive skin, the dark hair,
same coloration, dark hair. Yeah, I get that. I get that. Yeah. Okay, well, let's get her on the show.
Yeah, I would love it.
That'd be cool. So
definitely something different.
Yeah, especially, I mean, the whole point of the show for me really is to find people who are making music whose roots are very, very different than ours or everybody else's. I think that's kind of the spirit of Americana. And so she sounds perfect for this. Love to get some indigenous people, Native American, musical influences. That would be really fascinating.
Agreed.
I like that. That'd be good.
All right, we got to work on that.
We do. That'd be good. I had something else I wanted to mention that I was listening to. Oh, I know what it was. So I'll give you another one. I know I talk about Karen a lot on the show, and she gets embarrassed and tells me to stop it. But she has a lot of influence over what I listen to. Not that she makes me listen to stuff, but she'll say, hey, you should listen to this artist because I like them because of this, or she introduces me to new music. We've been dating for a couple of months now, so I'm still getting to know her, which means I'm still getting to know her album collection, her tastes and whatnot. But on Spotify, which I'm not a big Spotify user, I have the Apple Music, but she's introduced me to a couple of things on Spotify that I really like, and she recommended a playlist that is managed or curated by Cornbread Cowboy, Cowboi. Who is really kind of obscenely hysterical on Instagram and or TikTok. But the playlist is this incredible mix of old school country with a little bit of Southern rock and a little bit of new stuff. And so it's just a really interesting playlist. So for those of you who are watching on the screen, I can't get too close to the camera, but it's the yellow square in the middle with the cartoon character in a cowboy hat, right over there, that one. Cornbread Cowboy, Cowboi. So search for that playlist on Spotify. It's actually pretty good.
And that's
You know,
the name of the playlist, not an artist.
yeah, I think so.
Okay.
It's Cornbread Country Club is the name of the playlist, I think.
Oh,
It's
okay.
got like 10,000 saves, whatever that
Oh.
means. Again, I don't know Spotify very, very well. That's a better look at it right there.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's him. And like I'm looking down through here and it's, you know, a lot of Merle, Elvira by the Oak Ridge Boys.
Oh, boy.
Some John Conley, some Hank Williams Jr., Tim McGraw, David Ball, John Anderson, Randall King, Keith Whitley, Alabama. And this is some old school stuff in there. A lot of George Jones, a lot of Dolly. So
Cool.
well worth listening to. And I've been enjoying it. I've played it a few times.
Good.
So there you go.
All
All
right.
right. Well, I guess what you got anything else before we wrap it up and get out of here?
No. I mean, by the time this episode airs, I think I will have gone to a couple of shows.
Yep.
So, you know, I'll have some stuff to talk about in the coming episodes.
Cool.
But yeah, I think we're pretty well caught up.
I think we are. I am just by the way, by the time this airs, I will have already done this, but the next week when we're recording this on Tuesday night, little diversion, not too far off the beaten path than live music, but it's going to be an interesting event. Karen and I are going to see David Sedaris, who is coming through Louisville on a book tour.
Oh,
and
cool.
doing a reading and a Q&A, something or other. So I'm hoping that I get to meet him and tell him my funny story about how David Sedaris got me out of jury duty. And so I will tell that story to you now.
I feel like I've heard this.
This was in, I don't think I've told it on the show. If I have, forgive me for repeating it. But I was in Birmingham, Alabama, got called in for jury duty. I lived there for about 5 years,
Right.
About 15 years ago or so. And I got called in for jury duty. And that was right when his book Naked had been published.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought it to have something to read while I sat and waited on jury duty calling stuff. And I got called back for a juror selection in a trial. And I'm in the room with, I don't know, 50 or 60 other jurors, and they're trying to whittle it down to the 10 or 12 they have to pick. And they're going one by one and asking each juror questions and either accepting them or eliminating them. And they get to me. This is Birmingham, Alabama now, fairly conservative state, fairly conservative city. And one of the attorneys says, "Sir, did you bring anything to read with you during your jury duty this week?" And I said, "Yes, I did." He said, "What did you bring?" And I said, "Naked" by David Sedaris. And he said, "You're dismissed." So thank you, David. I hope I get a chance to thank you in person.
Oh, that's great.
That's fun. Oh, my goodness. Roots Music Rambler is a production of Falls and Partners, copyright 2023. Our theme music is Sheepskin and Beeswax by Gentacorum. Join us online at rootsmusicrambler.com and make sure you mash that subscribe or follow button so you remember to join us for the next hoedown and throwdown. She's Frank.
He's Falls.
And whatever you do, kids, ram along.